This is brutal. The anti-Psychopath pack, or anti-Psychopath, I think I've heard it called, that was started by George Conway, and we talked about a different one of their ads already. They released another one just recapping the disastrous day that Trump had yesterday and mocking him for it. Of course, his appearance at the National Association of Black Journalists convention, that was terrible. You'll see a lot of these clips sprinkled through this video, and then we'll talk about some other related items. Here it is.
I want anybody running for president to take an aptitude test, to take a cognitive test. I think it's a great idea.
We agree, because you're insane.
She was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn, and she became a black person.
Just to be, what does it mean to turn black?
She failed her law exam. She didn't pass her law exams.
Mr. President, are you saying she wouldn't have had? Just to be clear,
I'm just giving you the facts.
He did crap the bed today. The only question is whether he's going to roll around in it or get up and change his sheets.
Chuck Schumer has become a Palestinian. He's become a proud member of Hamas.
He did crap the bed today.
They couldn't get their equipment working or something. They have bad equipment. And the mics are really in lousy shape that happen to be taking black jobs. You had the best.
What exactly is a black job, sir?
A black job is anybody that has a job.
He did crap the bed today.
I don't think I've ever been asked the question in such a horrible manner. When you ask, continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
Why did you choose J.D. Vance?
I chose him because he's a very strong believer in work.
He did crap the bed today.
And then you were half an hour late, just so we understand, especially when you're 35 minutes late. You're the one that held me up at 35 minutes.
He did crap the bed today.
When Time Magazine asked you if you would consider pardoning all the rioters, you said, yes, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely, I would. I would pardon them.
Convicted.
And by the way, the Supreme Court just well...
He did crap the bed today.
Learn more at psychopath.org. Anti-Psychopath PAC Inc. is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Yeah, isn't it interesting that just hearing his words is humiliating in and of itself? Most of that ad is just him talking at that event. And the moment, by the way, that kept being referred to with Republican strategist Scott Jennings on CNN was this in its entirety.
First of all, I think he deserves some points for showing up at this thing and giving it a go. Where's Kamala Harris today? Not there. But that having been said, he did crap the bed today. The only question is whether he's going to roll around in it or get up and change his sheets.
That's a good question. What do you think?
My advice would be get up and change your sheets and do what your campaign is doing. The campaign knows how to prosecute the case, okay? They're on the air with it to the tune of millions of dollars on her policy record. That's what they should be doing. This is not going to end the way he wants it to end. There's a better way to do this, and they know what to do, but it's on him to do it. It's on him to do it. My strong advice is to perform.
Look,
I talked with a longtime Republican and anti-Trump Republican now, Tim Miller, yesterday, and one of the things we talked about was why can't people like Kari Lake, who Tim Miller has had some clashes with, and then Trump himself, stay disciplined enough, even if it's completely inauthentic, but just for the sake of trying to win, because that's what this is all about for them, couldn't you stay disciplined enough to not have those sorts of implosions that no political analyst ever would tell you is advisable? That appearance was just bad. The only people who liked it are already so MAGA, there's no reason to pander to them anymore. They're going to vote for you. But you're trying to, especially in this late state in the race, you're trying to reach those crucial voters who will determine the election. And Trump can't stay disciplined enough not to attack Kamala Harris's personality, not to go low in a way that alienates people. And that, Tim Miller's response was that it is just a matter of It's not a strategy he's enabling, thinking this is actually better for the campaign to have these sorts of... This is him just being impulsive, and he can't help himself. And so as many people like Scott Jennings recommend, and people around Trump will be recommending, hey, you should stay focused, try to do more of a policy critique. He might have moments where he tries to pretend like that's what he cares about, but he's going to go back. He's too impulsive. It's too much who he is to make it about identity, to have these sorts of vile attacks, and to embarrass himself in many ways. And it's fascinating, given what's at stake, that he can't help himself. That's how present his low character is in every single moment. It was really interesting watching, as we already sort of reviewed, but I have another moment for you. Harris Faulkner, who was on stage there, but she's a pro-Trump person, trying to run cover for Trump afterwards and making all these excuses for why it went so poorly.
Walks out on stage and not agreeing to acknowledge it's been 18 days at that point since you survived an assassination attempt. We're going to ask you tough questions, but Mr. President, welcome, and we're glad you're still here. Yeah. I mean, it didn't take much to show humanity, and in that moment I was so disappointed that that didn't happen. I couldn't control it, but it got things off to an emotional start, and you and I both know that once that happens and you're interviewing someone, there is an agenda. And I'm glad you guys played a clip of that, because America and the journalists in the room, who, by the way, sat and listened, some were laughing along with the president, little jokes and quips he was making. There were some critical in the audience, too. But it was expressed respectively, or respectfully, rather. There was a way to have taken some of the energy out of that moment, though, with that reporter. Walks out on stage and...
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry, but he's running for president. He can sit down and get critical questions and not melt down, okay? And I heard other moments of her just saying all sorts of different things in defense of him. When, of course, if something as politically disastrous as that took place for Biden or Harris now, they would not make those excuses. They would not say, as has been the argument, that they should have been more sweet at the beginning, saying, how's your day? Just sort of warm them up, and then you can ask the critical question. What is this, a child? What are you talking about? So weird. If you're watching this and you're thinking, this guy's not bad, and you want to support the work that we do, you can do so by clicking the subscribe button. Easy, free, but makes a huge difference. Back to the video. And let's see here. Another Fox News response to look at.
From the former president in an exchange moments ago on that stage, Brett, when Trump touted his accomplishments while in office for the black community. Listen.
I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country, including employment, including opportunity zones with Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, which is one of the greatest programs ever for black workers and black entrepreneurs. I've done so much, and you know, and I say this, historically black colleges and universities were out of money.
Important to point out there that the Biden White House and many Democrats you have heard go after former President Donald Trump for those claims that unemployment in the black community hit record lows during his term in office. And Brett, that is true. That did happen. Although the record was surpassed while Biden has been in office, the black unemployment rate continued to go even lower. So it is true to say that it dropped to a record low under President Trump, but it did continue to go down, and it made a new record low under Biden. So that was him touting his accomplishments. How do you think that that will go over, Brett?
Yeah, listen, it may get overwhelmed by other controversial things, and I'm sure the media is going to run with a whole bunch of things out of this panel that don't deal with that. But prior to Kamala Harris being the nominee or presumptive nominee, she will officially get it in a couple of weeks, I think that Donald Trump as a candidate was getting more black percentage of the vote, of the black vote, in any poll than any Republican has ever gotten. Yeah.
It's so interesting. this was captioned by Aaron Rupar, friend of the show. LMAO, Fox News found a 40-second clip from Trump's appearance at NABJ they can use to sane wash his disastrous appearance, but hosts aren't really into it. Yeah, I was curious to see how this would be covered by Fox News, because you have moments that are controversial or we would say went badly, like the debate. We all acknowledge that went badly for Biden, but we also wanted to make the point that in any rational world, Trump's performance would be something we're really critical of. And that was also disastrous because it was just filled with lies. He couldn't tell the truth. And that's not what you want in a presidential candidate. And for something like that, you can imagine, since Fox News peddles those very lies, why they can come out with the dishonest framework they have and pretend like the debate went really well. But this isn't that. Even if you're on his side, you have to be able to acknowledge it was a you-know-what show, okay? It was a poo show. And that was not something that the Trump campaign could have wanted when they accepted this. And so it looks like part of what they're doing is trying to pick out little parts from it that they can then have a conversation about, well, black unemployment was pretty low after it had dropped way more significantly in the Obama years and just continued on its trajectory in those next few. But again, we've gone through that many times. And I know we've done a lot of segments now responding to that event, but I think it's because it's so telling. It reveals so much about Trump, obviously with his attacks against Harris being so disgusting, but also he has not gone in front of critical reporters in a very long time. A lot of his post-presidency has been filled with interviews with super right-wing MAGA people who will tell him he's the best person ever, and the hard questions come in the form of, how do you do it? And then events where everyone's just cheering for him. And so something like this, seeing how quickly he crumbled is telling about his willingness to actually have his ideas called out. And in this case, they weren't even doing super brutal questions. It was just reading to him things he said about people. So you should be ready to respond to that. But let me know what you thought of all that in the comments. If you want to get extra content daily, you can do so by clicking the join button below.